Hello YouTube and welcome back to Social Soto. I'm your host here, Alexis Soto. Thank you so much for being here. It's going to be our first recap review of the 5th season premiere of TV's #1 show, The Walking Dead. I think a lot of fans are really on edge. This episode was just simply put my favorite episode of this show ever. What's key to remember here, it's payoff. This episode was all about payoff. We had seen Rick and the gang completely separated for around 8 episodes already. The fans grew increasingly frustrated that we didn't get to see that reunion. Rick and his friends are trapped in Terminus, and in the first 4 minutes, which literally were some of the most intense moments from the show we've ever seen, almost leaves you speechless as to what happens. Carol and Tyrese happen upon Terminus, and Carol just decides, I want to go all Rambo and I'm going to just walk into Terminus, I'm going to rescue our friends. And that's what happens. And I think a lot of fans would really be surprised if you can remember Carol from way back in season 1. I don't think anyone ever saw that much potential in Carol. And can I just say what a masterful job that the creators and the showrunners of Walking Dead have done to this character. She literally, in my view, was the main character of this episode. She single-handedly stormed in to Terminus with the help of walkers, of course. But she was ruthless. She was relentless in the way she just walked in there, took the stuff, set them free, and it was amazing. Carol was a very controversial character in the 4th season because they turned her into something that nobody ever saw coming. And it's very fitting. It's definitely very fitting where her character is now, and I have to say, as of this episode, she's completely solidified as my favorite character of this show. I mean, she's just a great character now. What they've done with her throughout the past season and what happened, it was just amazing. Rick, on the other hand, was even more amazing in some ways. I mean, just look at the transformation and evolution of all the characters, really. But with Rick in particular, just wow, and just that evolution he just had in the episode. He was thirsty for blood. He just couldn't wait to pounce and kill everyone in sight, and that's exactly what he did. It was, I gotta tell you, it was pretty badass, everything that happened, but a lot of it was pretty cutthroat. Literally, it was cutthroat. You don't know sometimes in this episode whether Rick is just crazy violent or mild-headed violent. What's really key to remember is the expressions on the group's faces when Rick says all of these things, especially Glenn and Maggie. Especially once they get out of Terminus, Rick is stubborn-headed and hell-bent on returning to Terminus and killing every single last one of them. And if I can be accurate here, he said, quote, "They don't get to live." That is a Rick we've never seen in this show before, and wow. And it's just wow. I mean, some would even wonder if Carol hadn't showed up at that moment. Who knows? Who knows what would have happened? And speaking of which, that was probably my favorite moment, or one of my favorites in the whole show. That reunion with Carol and Daryl. Keep in mind that throughout the past season, there hadn't been any scenes, almost any at all, with Carol and Daryl. And they've been through so much apart, and then having to reunite. For me, that was the strongest standpoint of this episode and why it works as a season premiere. When Carol and Daryl reunited, it had the effect that I wanted to have when all of our heroes were reunited. Their reunion was just so special. I literally was crying when that happened, and I'm not ashamed to say that because I love them specifically together. Even with Judith, Rick, and Carl, with Sasha and Tyrese, I mean, it literally ended up being the final keystone in the storyline of the second half of the 4th season. And the reason why it works so much better as a season premiere is because it builds up even more time than we had already seen our group separated for the 8 episodes, but then also with the 7-month break of not having any episodes at all. The payoff is what it was all about, and this is why this will be one of the most memorable and best episodes. And I am so excited for what's happening next. I'm really loving the show right now, and I'm particularly loving the cast and crew and the characters that we're exploring with here. We have a pretty decent big group. And it's gonna be so hard to see who ends up going next. The icing on the cake was definitely the return of Morgan, who's only been in 2 episodes, but some of the best of the series. I mean, he's definitely a fan favorite, and I can't wait to see what's next for him. Overall, The Walking Dead Season 5 premiere was just so much to take in. I mean, if you look at it just from an outlying perspective, you had literally throats were slashed open, decapitated and mutilated flesh of human beings, just shootouts here and there, Judith's neck almost being twisted, Tyrese focusing on trying to get himself situated after the whole Lizzie, Mika, Carol killed my girlfriend thing. It was so much to take in, but all of it, I have to say, was executed perfectly. For a true Walking Dead fan, this episode was the most viewed ever, 17 point somewhat million viewers, and it's estimated that it'll maybe cross over 22 million when the final numbers come in. So the 5th season premiere of The Walking Dead, for me, was a 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10. It was amazing. I loved it. It definitely would surprise me if fans didn't put this in their top 5 best episodes. I will predict it right now, this will be one of the most iconic episodes of The Walking Dead. It is amazing. And thank you for tuning in for another TV review, The Walking Dead Season 5 premiere. I'm Alexis Soto, and this has been Social Soda.